beginning, I want to express my gratitude to the Association of Iraqi Academics, to Liverpool Council, and all other hosts that organize this important event. First, I would like just to, well, this one. Yeah. Just to remind you about the definition of violence. My colleague already covered this aspect. I will just go through it very quickly. So violence can be physical, can be threat, can be psychological or mental, and can be coercion. And any of these categories also have a lot of other subcategories. So it's not necessarily a physical phenomenon. Sometimes the mental and the psychological violence is much more harmful, and the trauma created by that could stay for a very longer time. We are covering all this kind of violence in this conference. And then I would like to clarify something here. We are not talking about a particular culture. No any culture is violent by nature. No any culture is pure and is empty of any violent action. In fact, attributing violence to one culture entirely is a type and a kind of violence. It's a kind of racism which we should avoid. Instead, we are talking about cultural elements that exist and are present in all cultures, in different levels and in different forms. So, how culture can play a role in violence? Culture can play a role in violence in many different ways. It could be through our norms and values. The norms and values that we adopt in our life can play a significant role to driving people toward violence. Our belief and ideologies also can drive us, can push us toward violence. We can see this more importantly in the religious conflict, in the political conflicts. And our structure, our social structure that was already very well covered by other colleagues, and I will not go through it much more. The religious symbols and icons are important. They are deeply rooted in our history, and they are combined with many historical conflicts which are passed through generation to us. These symbols should be understood and analytically criticized sometimes and interpreted in a positive way. And lastly is historical narratives, how we see the world, how we see our identity, how we tell the story of ourselves, our families, our communities to others, how we see our history and background. This is also very important part which can play a role. Let's go more deeper and give you some more examples, real examples of the cultural role in violence. The very common one is racism. Racism can play a role in many different forms. I will give you just some examples of it. One of them is the supremacy mindset, which is very common in our society. When I see myself better than you, I have a better culture, I have a better religion than you, my state is better than the state that you come from, and my culture is higher than your culture, my values are more ethical and more moral than your values. This kind of supremacy mindset is one of the sources of pushing us toward taking violent action, not necessarily physically, as I already mentioned. It could be mentally, it could be psychologically, in workforce, in schools, in bullying form, and etc. And another example is the gender bias, which is also a very important one, and is very important to acknowledge that from all different gender categories. It's not accurate to talk from just one gender lens. All genders can have this kind of mindset, the bias mindset against others, to see themselves better in some aspect and to see themselves entitled to some rights that other gender is not entitled to. And the hatred which also can be present in different forms. It can be hatred speech, it can be hatred acts, it can be hatred just symbols, it can be sometimes just body language. All these kind of forms can express hatred to others and push them toward, the person who has this hatred toward taking violence. And the last one is the ethnic bias, which also very common. Let's go to the religious and the cultural stories. Religious and cultural stories are accumulation of historical wisdoms. They came from thousands of years. But dealing with them is very complicated, it's very difficult. They should be interpreted very carefully. Sometimes these stories are understood wrongly and push people and create motivation into them to take some kind of violence. I just give you a very simple example. The very famous story of Abraham being commanded by God to sacrifice his son can be understood literally, which is very brutal. What kind of God is this that push you and command you to go and sacrifice your son? And it could be understood completely differently, metaphorically, as an act of ending a brutal ritual, which was common through human history. For thousands of years, we adopted this ritual to killing the first born or first son born in the family, and Abraham actually ended it, this brutal ritual, and the command was a metaphor, was a way to teach us to get away from this bad behavior. So understanding the stories and interpreting them in the correct and positive way is very important. I will just go through the other one because I want to cover most of the issues as I could. I just have 7 minutes. The family values and practice are very important. Inside the family, the parents, the siblings, the family members in general create a cultural environment. So the way that we treat each other, the way that parents treat each other, the way that they speak to each other, the level of hostility, the level of cooperation, understanding, the smooth relationship between them, the role of older sibling in the younger sibling life, the quality time that parents spend with their children. All these things create a culture that could drive our children, the new generation, toward more tolerant, more positive integration in the society, or toward violent and aggression in the society. So this is very important to be understood, and is very important again to cover it from all aspects. Sometimes when we are talking about domestic violence, when we are talking about the problem in the family, we just see women as no agency, which is wrong. Women have very important agency in the family, and they can play very positive and also very negative role at the same time. As we have toxic masculinity, which is correct, we have toxic femininity as well, which should be covered as well. Women are capable of various kind of violence as well. So it's important to see this issue also equally and encourage all members of family to play a positive role in the family. Yep, and yeah, I'm going opposite. Isolation and ignorance is very important. It is very commonly said that ignorance is the mother of all evil. And this is another common phenomenon in Australia. I will just want to remind you to a story from Jalaluddin Rumi, the famous philosopher and poet, which explained this issue very well. He says there were 4 people sitting at the side of a street. One of them were Arab, another one Persian, another one Turks, and another one from Eastern Rome, the empire that was existed back then. So one person came and gave them 1 dirham, $1, say, and tell them you can buy whatever you want with it, but buy it together. So they went to store. One of them said, I want anab. Another one said, I want angur. The third one said, I want uzum. And the fourth one said, I want Israfil. And they start fighting and hitting each other. The owner of a store, who was able to speak all these languages, told them, just settle down, sit here, I will manage in a way that make you all satisfied. He went and came with a tray of grapes, and they just realized they've been using different words for same thing. Many of religious hatred, which exists in many societies, comes from ignorance. I don't know you, and I don't know your value. When I confront you and communicate with you and talk with you, I will realize, oh, we are both talking about same thing. We just have different names for it. So ignorance and isolation is very important as well. Here. Social groups' values and practices is important. Our children spend more time with their peers and with their age groups than with us. It's important to equip them with enough tools and skills, especially in the very early age, because when they got to the teenage age, your influence as parents will be reduced significantly. So you have to teach them. The relationship inside the family and the family friends is very important. It's very commonly said as well that show me who you are a friend with, I will tell you who you are. So if your friends who coming to your house or you go to their house are not a good friends, it will have impact on your children and push them toward selecting this kind of friends as well. And the political ideologies is another important thing as well. We always in our communities like to talk about politics, which is good, it's not bad. What is bad is sometimes we see everything as white and black. We see everything as negative. Our conversation is destructive. Politics is not white and black. Politics is complicated. First of all, there are a lot of positive things. In this politics, we have Mahatma Gandhi, we have Nelson Mandela, we have a lot of peacemakers. So not everything is destructive and not the world is ending. There are a minority bad politicians, there are a minority good politicians, and there are a wide gray area with a different aspect, having positive and negative. So it's very important to have a realistic and positive conversation and teach our children to see the political world accurately, not just from one side. Utopian is very important. Utopian views is sometimes has negative impact on us. I just remind you that all the destructive totalitarian regimes, the Nazis, the Soviet Union, the fascists, they had utopia. They wanted to make the world better. But what they ended up at the end, it was destruction, it was catastrophe, and it was horror. So we shouldn't have this kind of utopian and perfectionism that we are thinking about something very perfect. Many violence action comes from this view. I want to make the world better, so let's kill this one and kill that one and remove that one and isolate this one, so I will make the world better. This is another aspect which is important to be covered. And historical grievances and memories are important. Some of us coming from a minority group from our countries that we've been subjected to a long history of violence. It's very important to heal ourselves. It's very important to abandon the victimhood mentality. Victimhood mentality is not good. We should heal ourselves and we should see how I can contribute. I just give you a very good, a quick example. One of my colleagues in Sinjar in Iraq from Yazidi minority, he established an organization there called the Bayt al-Ta'ayush, the coexistence house. So instead of going to just talking about victimhood, he established something positive to integrate all communities in Nineveh Plain, in Sinjar together, and to establish a foundation to stop any kind of repetition of these horrible things that happen to them. And I just probably need 2 more minutes. Social media influence is very important, and you know that a young generation usually like to see something unfamiliar, So in our society, there is not that much violence comparing to other societies, especially the society that we came from. So they want to see something different, seeing someone get beheaded, getting someone get tortured. It's something new for them. And especially they have very curious mind. And social media is designed, when you see a content, more content similar to that will come to you. So controlling the social media, the access to social media, having a proper age for it, having a good arrangement for our children to not be exposed to this kind of harmful content is very important as well. And destructive lifestyle, which is very important. Addiction, having a toxic diet, not having enough exercise. Sometimes just violence comes from this kind of stuff. I get depression, I get anxiety. I have a lot of energy inside myself. I don't do exercise, I don't have any sport. So I have to take it out anyway. I take it out in a destructive and negative way. And finally, I want to provide some recommendation instead of conclusion to save the time. First is interfaith connection. I don't mean by that just formal conferences and meetings, which is very important. I mean something more deeply inside the social interaction. Mosques should host Christians, Jewish, Buddhists, other people, and churches as well, and other religious centers. One of the things that my hobbies that I do with my children usually in the holidays, I take them to other religions' temples. I'm a religious person, I take them to mosques, but when I have a free time, I take them to church, to Knesset even, to Baha'i Center, to Hindu temple, which is in Parramatta here, one of them close to you, and others, so they can see them, and they can talk, and they can ask questions, and they can get proper answers. So they get equipped with a good analyze and with good critical thinking. This is very important. Improving our educational system. It's good that we have scripture and ethics in our schools, but we should have some subject to cover all religions and cultures comparatively, to see all of them together. Some parents do this by themselves. They send their children to other scripture for a short time to get introduced to other religions. This is a good thing. I teach scripture in schools and I teach ethics as well. I have sometimes Christians or Hindu or Buddhist students coming to my class, which is very nice. And I encourage my Muslim students to go to other classes as well. Having something to cover this aspect, to get our new generation know others and get communication with them and understand them is very important. And the third one is the policy and legislations. We have a lot of issue here. It's an irony that we don't sell cigarette and alcohol to under 18 children, but we allow them to get access to violence, pornography, and all other destructive things through internet with no restriction. Don't tell me there is restriction. Restriction is just an icon. Are you under 18 or above 18? I'm above 18. That's it. I go get access to it. This is wrong. This is something that we need to think about it on the broader vision, not just in our family. In our family, there are a lot of techniques that we can talk about, but in the society and state level and policymakers also is important. Authority, police, and policymakers should be educated about how to understand our other cultures. Sometimes they take action based on misinformation, which could lead that subject to violence later on. This is another important part. And the last one is positive communication, having communication with others and having this kind of meeting for our younger generation, bring them together and make them talk to each other and make them communicate with each other. This is also another important recommendation that I can raise today. Thank you so much, and sorry for 5 minutes delay.
Thank you very much.